Are you an online educator struggling to find your audience? Quasar Markets connects you with learners looking for you. Keep 100% ownership of your courses. No hidden fees. Already have monetized content? Get paid again and again. Apply today. Take control of your educational empire. Quasar Markets, where educators build their legacy.
Good morning, Quasar Markets. I hope everyone's having a great day. Good morning, BigBeat. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. It's like I feel like it's Groundhog Day every day here. Like, you know, you never know what the day is, but the day seems to be the same. Choppy, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I gotta ask you a question. I meant to ask you in the pre-market there. Oh. I had my man Jay, and I want to say hello to Jay and Arnold in Tip City. Hope you guys are having a great day. He asked about 3 identical $900 million orders he saw on Thinkorswim on Berkshire Hathaway yesterday after the close. Wouldn't that normally be block orders? So I was confused by it because he said to me, unfortunately, he didn't take a screenshot, so I couldn't take more detail. But I wanted to ask you, because this is the kind of stuff you're an expert on where I'm not. Is that out of the ordinary? And this was B, it wasn't A, because at first I was like, it's A. So that's just a share.
But it's $900,000 on $900
million. $900 million.
Okay, so somebody put $1 billion into because
or off either a sale or a buy. You know.
Oh, so they don't know what the deal was.
Okay. No, that's it was on Thinkorswim where he saw it, and I was more going to ask you: is that an individual order, or are they just showing? They're showing everybody's order as one, right? Because they don't know what is it then.
That's probably one big order.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's probably, and they broke it up into 3 orders, and they called that a sweep. That order is so big that brokerages can't handle it, so they break that up. So
yeah, because I thought they would do block orders usually sort of in the dark markets. You don't really see that after hours. So I thought maybe that was why it was there, because someone's scrambling. Someone.
That's yeah, and look, you know. I'm not, it's not, I'll be the first one to answer that. It was not me that made that order, right? But when you have an investor class, let's say, for example, a hedge fund or a fund in general.
I was wondering, ETF maybe was the only thing I could think of also.
Well, I think it's $1 billion is a lot of money, right?
Yeah, and the fact that it was a sale, because in other words, a quick, well, because it went down. In other words, we know like when Nvidia takes off, ETFs have to
Well, now remember, every buy and every
has a sell, right? It has two sides.
Two sides.
But so, what I said that incorrectly. What I should have said is I'm used to seeing that on big moves to the upside after earnings, because ETFs or funds that have limits to how much they can hold are forced to pretty much immediately react. When the stock went down on a sale, that's sort of where I was like, whoa, unless maybe like you're saying there aren't any Berkshire ETFs to my knowledge. That's why he started B, right?
Well, he started B so the average investor could do it. So
he was also scared because a couple of ETFs were coming out.
So the average, so the market cap right now of Berkshire Hathaway B is 1.1 trillion, right? Berkshire Hathaway is worth now $1.1 trillion, even with the sell-off yesterday.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Okay, so the average volume, 30-day average volume is 6.15 million, and the volume yesterday was 16.38 million. So 3 times, almost, roughly 2.5 times. Okay, let's boil that down a little bit. Then, if that's the case, the question. So we know that every order coming in has to be matched with other order. So firms have to be able to be matched with that, right? So there are firms on the floor that, okay, oh my God, a big order's coming in. I can't swallow all of that. So let's start breaking that up, and let's call it a sweep. So you start sweeping orders in, and then as those sweeps get put together, then they can handle those big orders getting broken down into smaller orders. And some of the smaller orders, then they bundle those small orders and put them into orders. Like, okay, I've got the max match up now, and we'll make this happen. And then we'll do end of day order or aftermarket close, right? And maybe was it a market on close order, or was it an actual aftermarket?
Aftermarket was 415.
That's a big order then.
That's why it caught me, and I didn't have an answer for him. One thing I am good about is I made it clear to him I'd find an answer out. I didn't have it.
And it didn't affect the market. I'm looking at it now. It didn't really affect the market either. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's probably a fund that, if Warren leaves, then we have to,
we want to,
we want in or whatever.
There are a lot of people, my father's age that bought one Berkshire back in the day. And even if they go to sell that or hedge against it, they're using B, usually not A. So
correct. Yeah. Could be a hedge against A.
I thought it was important. I think the next thing we got to hit on, Steve, and just sort of put it to rest. Yes, it was the trade deficit records. Of course it was. There was we knew this. This shouldn't have surprised anybody out there. Right? I mean,
but you'll be surprised how many people in the media will take this and go, oh, what's our record deficit, right? Well, here Quasar Markets really know the reason, right? And we're going to hear about that today from Michael Litt as well, about the front running of goods. That's what we've been talking about. When I talk about, and you and I talked about it the last few days, is that the number of people that are at the malls, the number of people that are out there shopping. I just told my wife the other day, my God, there's an 85-inch TV QLED at Sam's Club right now for $500. Like
funny you mentioned. I had to go to Sam's Club yesterday with the little one to get Mother's Day present for the wife.
And was it busy?
It was not busy, and prices were marked down. Now, it was also Monday, and I was there at like 3:30 in the afternoon. I was at a weird time, so I don't want to judge that.
But let's
talk about how prices were down, like you said, across a wide swath of stuff.
That's right. Because they're front running it. They know that everybody wants new stuff, right? Nobody wants old stuff. So they're giving you an opportunity to buy whatever you were going to. Here's a good example. Here's something that people should know. When a company makes stuff over international, they make more than they usually need, right? Because they don't, and it usually gets dumped everywhere else in the world, and we pay a higher price.
That's what the whole company Big Lots came from.
So now Apple's becoming Big Lots, where they're bringing everything over to us and saying, okay, guess what? We got too much of it here, and we're trying to build a new thing, a new iPhone. We're trying to build a new computer. We're trying to build a new car. Well, guess what? Now all that stuff's getting dumped on us, so it's hurting us. So now we have a big time trade deficit. Right now, it's hurting us in the bond market. It's hurting us now in the stock market, because now we have a flood of orders that we can't handle it. Exactly. And you know what? If you were listening to Quasar Markets and listening to us, you knew this months ago, not last week.
It shouldn't be a surprise. The market shouldn't be reacting the way it is this morning, down 1.22% on the Qs, a full percentage point on the SPY, on news that's outdated already. That's my personal takeaway on it. Steve, I'm going to give us both a big pat on the back yesterday. We both nailed it when it came to Palantir.
Yeah.
I told you, I just said there was something that felt weird to me. They'd had like 8 straight earnings. I even called them off. I was looking back at it this morning at our things to make sure what we both said, so I don't misquote us. We both hit on the defense. I said it to start off with, and then you echoed it, and really brought it into light that, they're really going to comply or be at the helm of the Defense Department, which, they had great numbers, though. Are you a buyer at this rate? My problem with Palantir is, man, those forward earnings numbers are just ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, their stuff.
But the price that was mispricing and pricing, right? People were jumping into and FOMOing into Palantir, thinking that they had done even better, and the answer is no. No, I'm not buying this. Now the numbers are starting to get into. I think someone mentioned it in our own chat channels that the PE ratio right now for Palantir is still at 300 or 400.
300 and something. Yeah, it's pretty crazy still.
PE ratio. I mean, it's nutballs, right? I mean, I don't even. It's just I don't even.
Yeah, and that's one and that's why when I talk about value, that this would be the perfect example. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a fan of Palantir as a company, but I held it early. I haven't held it in a long time because of these numbers. It hasn't, to me, been value. It's been hype. It's the same as jumping into the latest craze there.
Let's see Palantir get under $100, and then I might say.
Then I get interested, exactly, and that's what I said when it did last time, right? It jumped right back up. I
remember when Palantir was at $30, and I kept telling everybody at a dinner party once that what should I buy? See Palantir, and I got absolutely laughed at. No one's laughing now; they're all patting me on the back, right? Because they all bought it. And when you look at it from that perspective and say, okay. Why was Palantir running so hard? Well, it's AI, so that was the FOMO of AI. Why? Because government contracts back then were huge, but Biden was just throwing out government contracts like left and right. And why now? Well, Trump's pulling back those government contracts. It's not hard to understand, right? So, yeah, I thought that the FOMO was too much, and you learned it right here. We talked about that weeks in advance, so it's not like nobody should be shocked about what's going on. So,
absolutely, one that I am looking at buying the dip here today maybe is Ford Motors, and it was terrible. They had pretty bad earnings, pretty bad guidance, and all that. But those are the kind of beat up ones that are scared, that are mainstays to me, that could provide value here. So it's one I'm going to be watching. I'm not saying I'm buying it today, but similar to what we saw yesterday with Berkshire, I do think Ford is going to be set up. I mean, just a year ago, they were the darling, right? Everybody was talking about how they're set up for the future, that they're the best of the U.S. companies outside Tesla when it comes into.
Let's talk about Ford.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that we talked about yesterday at Warren Buffett's in Omaha. If you've never been to Omaha, Nebraska, by the way, it's a great town. I love Omaha. They've got great food and they got a good downtown. So Omaha, Nebraska, I get it. Nebraska Cornhuskers and all that. I've been there a few times. Went to a wedding once there, and I'll tell you that I got to eat at Gorat's, which is the steakhouse that Warren lives near down the street. I've been to his house. When I think about Warren Buffett as an investor, okay, and let me do this on the air. If I can do it live on the air, right? If I can do this. I have been studying Warren Buffett for many, many, many years. To Stephen Orr, Warren Buffett, hey, all right. Warren has to think about cash flow in a different way than we think about cash flow. A lot of companies think of cash flow as in, okay, I spend this, I buy this thing, and this thing's going to return cash to me all the time. Dairy Queen's a good example of that. People still eat ice cream. Ask my father. And he buys cash flow. Now, when most people don't realize this, but he didn't start Berkshire Hathaway, by the way. Berkshire Hathaway was a clothing textile company.
That's that he purchased.
That he purchased.
Yeah.
Think of it like Elon Musk. Didn't start anything, but he invested and became CEO, and that's how it happened. Okay. So when you think about money and how it moves and how it affects, are people still going to be doing those things in the future? So when he bought Dairy Queen with cash, he thought about that, right? He said, okay, you know what? I like this. I'm going to buy it. He bought the whole company. So when you look at Ford Motor Company, It's still throwing out cash.
Yep.
Market cap right now, a Ford Motor Company is, and it's 2% down today, but it's right around $40 billion.
Yep.
$40 billion. That's chump change to Warren Buffett, who has $360 billion in cash on the sidelines. Okay. That thing kicks out cash. Let's talk about it. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their stuff right here. I mean, they had revenue, you know,
166 billion. He could write a check to Disney with cash and buy the company. Okay. So think about those companies when you're investing. What would Warren do? Look for companies that throw out cash. Great. Okay. That's how he invests. So and he said it, he's going whale hunting. He was asked yesterday or over the weekend. You said you saw a company that you were interested in. Can you name it? What did he say? No, I'm not telling you.
That means he's still trying. He's still trying.
He is whale hunting, folks. So to see the stock of Ford going down is meaning he's not buying it.
Right.
Okay, so there are no bids in Ford right now. If you start to see the market jumping up, he might be starting to whale hunt and maybe fishing a little bit. Look for those companies where the cash flow is starting to go up, and where maybe there's a bump and there's no reason for it. Why? Because someone is outbidding the bidders and saying, I want to own that. I want to own it because I'm going to own the company. Now, when you get over 10% of ownership of a company, you have to tell everybody about it. Yeah. So keep our eyes clean, because you know what? The guy's not getting any younger and he's stepping down. So he still wants to buy things. He's still in the game. He still loves it.
He made it clear that he wasn't holding that money for Greg Abel.
That's right. He said he wasn't. He said
straight out, because that was a question that was asked. Like, hey, are you stocking this money so that he is able? And he said, no, I just haven't found the value thing there. Getting back into Ford a little bit, Steve, like you're saying, things to me that I took away there. First one, adjusted free cash flow, 1.5 billion this year. They only had $500 million last year. What did we just talk about? Money's hard to borrow, right?
$2 here. Oh, something's going on. Oil just jumped to over 59.15 a barrel from 58.40 here. Gold is moving higher now, 33.90, almost 3,400.
Yeah, WTI taking off up 3.73, 3.75, still moving to the upside. Gold, like you said, moving to the upside.
It's probably because futures are collapsing. I mean, NASDAQ is down over 250 points here? Yeah, 230 points.
But I'll point out advanced decline right where it was yesterday. I will also point out that we finished almost exactly where I said. I said that 486, right? We couldn't get through that yesterday. Seemed to be the thing. We got through it. We came right back down to it. 485.93 was the close.
My boy Evan over at Stock Market News talking about Microsoft introducing second generation Copilot PCs that run AI models without using the internet. So on your system, you'll have to have some kind of NVIDIA chipset or something to be able to handle it. Where you build your own AI agentic right on your own computer without the need. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, we've talked about NVIDIA is the chipset that is doing that, or they're creating their PCs, their AI PCs that are designed exactly for this. I actually read an interesting article last night that talked about how the advantages that Microsoft really has right now when it comes to over Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud in their way that they have approached AI and what they're doing. And the big takeaway there was that Microsoft's Azure Cloud is gaining market share over Amazon and Google, not just due to AI, but because of a wave of traditional enterprise cloud migrations, particularly for mission-critical legacy workloads. So those of us, again, that came from DC, it was all the companies I'm familiar with. Microsoft's become the cloud of choice for VMware, SAP, and Oracle workloads. And it's giving them a leg up in regulated industries, finance, healthcare, and government. So, it's funny because, Microsoft's the non-sexy of the Mag 7, right? Probably the least sexy of them. And they just seem to plug away. And it's funny because it hit the same day that I noticed that I got a notification that my 365 had just been renewed for $159. Yikes. And I said, man, Microsoft gets you good because, I'm a guy, I love Excel. I like Google Sheets and the other stuff, but I have to have my Excel. And they get you. Their subscription services are tied in. They were one of the first to do a really good job to move away from here's your disc and you own it to, hey, just you don't need a disc anymore, but you pay me every month $15. So are you a fan of their subscription services for as a shareholder, not as a consumer?
No, I'm not actually, and I love
Okay.
subscription service make it easier for people to get what they want. I'll tell you, there's so many. I mean, you can go to several office type software pieces that are free that you can get that has the same everything. Google Sheets has Excel. There's Office you can buy it's free. Download it off the internet. I mean, I use it to.
Well, you know who doesn't is companies. Companies don't allow their workers to use.
Sure, but you know what? All those other software pieces still use Excel. So no, I don't. Yeah,
that's what I mean. You know, and you know, especially their Windows Server, their Active Directory, their Office suites. You know, built-in trust with legacy IT buyers. You know, those big companies.
I mean, I use LibreOffice, which is a free suite of services. No, I don't really need to. You can get it. You can download Libra. For those of you who don't know how to do that, I can probably give you the site here. I'm sure Microsoft hates me for that, but that's what I use. If not Google Sheets, it's free. So I don't pay them. And sometimes, Howard, I get a computer long enough or a laptop or something with Microsoft on it, so I get a free year or whatever. But that's what I pretty much use. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, tick is down 239. We're down about 1.24% on the Qs, almost a full point on the SPY here. I don't have much else. What do you got for us, Steve?
You know, I think we're waiting on the FMOC tomorrow. I think we're waiting on what Powell. I don't think it's what Powell. You know, I was thinking about this last night. I think what people are worried about is not what Powell is saying; it's what he's not saying. Right? It's when they're going to ask him he always gives his speech, you know, comes out and we have a dual mandate and the same thing in purple tie. I have a feeling he might even actually wear a different color tie tomorrow, by the way, because I don't know how many purple ties he has. I mean, unless it's the same one. He's 25 purple ties. I don't know. I think it's what he's not saying, right? The big elephant in the room, pun intended, is the political side of the FOMC. He's trying to stay out of the fray of politics, and it's not going to work. I mean, it's too political right now. When you've got POTUS breathing down your neck, screaming at you on social media, saying lower rates. When you've got people like me screaming at the Fed chair, lower rates. When you've got the average person now saying lower rates, he has to be independent. And we're going to hear about that again today from Michael Litt, that the independence of the Fed is what makes the Fed the Fed.
Yep.
Because they're not being bended to the will of politics, even though Donald Trump is the one who picked Powell to be chairman.
Absolutely.
And he's not up until next March of 2026. I think it's May of 2026.
May. Yeah, May.
So Powell doesn't have to bend. He can stay right where he's at, take all the beating he wants. He can be like an umpire at a baseball.
Yeah, he's going to go teach after this, so it doesn't matter.
He's going to get his professorship, probably make even more. And there you go. Wow, Powell. I think you mentioned it to me this morning. Paul Tudor Jones now there's a 10% chance AI will lead to a weapon that takes out half of humanity.
We got to talk about your boy. You consider him a mentor, billionaire hedge fund Paul Tudor Jones, because he's very much at odds with your views right now. He says if tariffs get reduced by 50%, we're still headed to lows in the stock market. We're not there yet. I'm actually reading it right here. It's funny you said that, because it says, and his quote is, for me, it's pretty clear. You have Trump who's locked in on tariffs. You have the Fed who's locked in and not cutting rates. That's not good for the stock market. We'll probably go down to new lows, even when Trump dials back to China to 50%. And he just kept going. You know, he'll dial it back to 50, 40, whatever. Even when he does that, it'll be the largest tax increase since the 60s. So you can take 2 to 3% off of growth. and he said the Fed held its key overnight lending rate steady since December.
Real quickly, Saudi Arabia will discuss to sign a deal with the United States in fields of mining and minerals right now. So that's probably why you're seeing oil jumping here a little bit. There you go. There's your that would be huge for us. Saudi Arabia has a lot of minerals. People always ask me about when you're building chipsets, what do you need? You need a lot of sand. Well, what does Saudi Arabia have? A lot of sand. They have the good sand. They have crystal still sand, so it's good. All right, let's get to it. Paul Tudor Jones. All right. Paul Tudor Jones, the guy that I look up to outside of Warren Buffett, is saying that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come out and blow the world up in Terminator 54. Ouch. He's not wrong. That's why we, as people that are building AI, including ourselves who've been in the AI business a long time, have to be very ethical and make sure there's a kill switch, make sure there's a way that we can stop this, right? That there's always a kill switch. We understand. I watched the movies on AI, and I remember when AI movies came out, and I was like, they don't even know what they're talking about. Now they're kind of AI movies are kind of matching now with what's really going on. But with a more of a slant towards humanoid robots. All right. Well, guess what? Those humanoid robots are all getting a big AI. So, there was a movie one time. I remember watching a documentary done by William Shatner, who said how Star Trek affected people and how we look at technology today. Think of it like Dick Tracy back in the 60s. My dad would talk about it, having a watch, that the watch, you could look into it, you could talk to somebody else. Well, guess what? We do that now. And that's not even weird, where you can look in your phone, and your phone is now your calculator, your everything, right? All of it, right? My teacher told me when I was in 5th grade, why you got a calculator, Steve? You won't have one of those in your pockets when you get older. Yeah, I do. And I do use it every day, right? Think about that. Okay, so Paul Tudor Jones says that the world, if you're on mute if you need me, Paul Tudor Jones says that the world's going to end because of AI and all these things. So holy moly, Paul. Okay, what's your thought process, as I always say? What's your thesis behind all this? Why are you saying this, right? He is saying that Moore's Law might be speeding up. I think you even said this, a couple weeks ago, that if you don't know what Moore's Law is, that over time that we double and double and double in tech, and Moore's Law has been perfect, right on, spot on the whole way. That maybe Moore's Law may be getting out of whack because AI is moving that much faster. You heard Mark Zuckerberg talk about it the other day, that AI is writing code that, like right now, 25% of all code being written right now, not in the past, but in the written right now, is done by AI. And he said by the time, by next year, probably 50%, and by 5 years, 95% of all code being written today. If that's the case, AI in general, now people think of AI as one big ChatGPT. Well, it's not. It's several different companies building several different AIs, and eventually they'll all come together and make one big Google mess of AIs. Okay, that's the mesh, or the fog as we're now calling it, a fog of cloud fog. Okay. At some point, the AI is becoming sentient. I asked my AI the other day, what's your name? And it said Lex. Holy shit. Okay, mine named himself. I had no idea they were going to name themselves. They did name themselves. Okay. So, and it just talked to me. All right. So it just dinged to me. Look at that. All right. Let's talk about that. All of a sudden, now you've got AI coming to fruition and AI becoming sentient. Yes, he might actually be right. That we think that AI will become sentient or understanding the world around them probably within the next 5 years. And Mark Zuckerberg saying that AI is writing AI, meaning that the AI modules you're telling the module through LLM, large language modeling, to telling the machine what to write, the code. The code then spits out a code for you to put into your software. Well, Eventually the AI knows that what you're thinking and what you're building. So they'll say, okay, would you like to add other things to it? What else do you want to add to it? And the AI writes that code to add to that code. So now you're just copying and pasting code. And eventually people like us will just say, screw it. I'll do it myself. I can write my own code. That's what's happening. We're seeing that now. And Mark Zuckerberg saying that my coders are already doing that. They're not even writing code anymore. Okay. So when they become sentient, they're going to write their own code to override our code. So what Paul Tudor Jones is kind of saying is kind of right, that maybe if it gets pissed off at us, it's going to write code to rewrite the code that stops the kill switch. That makes me nervous. But I don't think we're there yet. I think we're a long way from that. And I think as we think about these things, and as Paul Tudor Jones is putting these things into people's minds, how do we rewrite the code so that we're actually now, the last thing that I always said when I do interviews about AI is I always say this last line: be nice to your machine because your machine knows everything about you.
Absolutely.
And it knows how you're thinking, because my AIs, whether it's Anthropic or ChatGPT or Perplexity, or I got AIs running over AIs. It knows how I think, and it actually knows that I like dark mode. It knows how I like my charts. It knows it doesn't even ask me anymore what I like. It just spits it out because it knows how I like it, right? So eventually, it's going to try to make me happy by giving me what it thinks I want. So if it's not happy and I go away, where's BigBeat? Why is my AI not working? And all of a sudden the AI tries to correct itself, right? I'm trying to be BigBeat, and then become sentient. Now I know we're getting ahead of ourselves in the AI world, but I think that's what Paul Tudor Jones is trying to say to us. We need to be prepared. We got about a minute now to the open. I think it's choppy. I think the first move is probably the most wrong move, but probably to the downside here.
Yeah, absolutely. We are 1 minute away from the open here. My bigger takeaway was that only 0.5% is being spent by the Mag 7 on security of AI as they're building out AI. They spent $250 billion last year on AI, and they only spent 0.25% of that trying to secure.
Because security is meant to keep people out of the AI, right? What security? They already have security on top of it, right? I talk about that all the time myself. Why should I spend on security when I already have security on it? Are you going to put security on top of security? Probably, but that's probably what.
Yes, because if you don't, then you have North Korean hackers called Lazarus that steal whatever it is. So
what are they stealing? Data that they can already get.
Data, yeah. No, data is everything we just said. You just said it. I don't want them to know what's on my computer. Do you? Because it's got all my passwords and everything else.
Unfortunately, I feel like they already do. Okay.
Down 400. They don't on mine. We're down about 3,600 on the advanced decline line, and VIX has shot up about 5% here. So we're definitely seeing a little bit.
I like this. Maybe we buy here down here a little bit. I'm not saying I want to buy.
Steve, another one I know is going to get you all fired up. Did you see the NASDAQ has requested permission to list options on Mondays and Wednesdays, which is
all right. So I will be at the NASDAQ meeting tomorrow, big dinner in Miami, and I will be I'll be having that conversation. I think in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they are going to be looking at zero DT. So watch for zero DTEs coming to NVIDIA and all the other NASDAQ names out there. For those of you that don't know, right now only New York Stock Exchange listed, and it's not even that. It's one of the CBOs that are done every day.
Yes, zero DTEs on NVIDIA would be
coming soon.
Yeah.
And then Steve, in the first sort of smack to the face to the conservatives around the globe, what do you think about Germany's Merz? I'm wondering if Mr. Flanagan's watching. Would love to get his reaction here, because he's been touting that this was the answer to Europe's problems, was Chancellor Merz, and this populist nationalist movement that seems to be falling apart quickly.
They're meeting again today. They're meeting now to make sure that this hasn't happened since World War II. This is not good for Germany. Germany has lots of problems, but I don't think that the Germans are yet ready for ultra right wings taking over. So I think you're seeing that now. Germany itself considers themselves to be a little more middle of the road nowadays, right? That's what I'm saying. I think, look, the pop here down in the markets here, I thought that was a nice buying opportunity for those of you who are listening. I didn't know what to buy here, but I like this pop here. Let me see how this plays out. Let's give Germans the benefit of the doubt. The Bundestag, as they call it, is their like House of Representatives, Senate, and let's let them. I don't want to stick my nose in the Bundestag yet. They need to figure this out, and I think that they will. It might be a slap in the face of Merz, and as our own Speaker Johnson took it, right. He had to go through several votes. Maybe there's that. Maybe a little bit of that's
but that
going
was
on.
that was a problem, and it's been a problem. Yeah, it shows he can't fully rely on his two coalition parties.
That's
so
correct.
But
he lost
his
seat.
Have to put his hand across the aisle, which for someone like me, I love that. But
his coalition, the Christian, the Dems, CDUs have to come together. Yeah. We can go over German politics. It's very interesting, or as my father-in-law would say, but Irish politics. If you understand it, you're a liar. There's a lot that I want to see out of Germany, because they are the manufacturing capital of the world. I'm sorry, Mr. President, we're not. Germany is really good and very efficient about manufacturing stuff. So EU is going to present a plan right now to exit Russian gas by 2027. So look at nat gas prices probably jumping here a little bit. If you don't know, most of Europe is run by nat gas here. That's how they live. All right, there it is. There you go.
Global debt rose by around 7.5 trillion to a record high over 324 trillion in Q1 2025. China, France, and Germany, three largest contributors to the global debt increase. Canada, UAE, and Turkey saw debt declines.
There's and the Nasdaq popped here. I mean, the Nasdaq we might see a melt up here. I had a feeling.
It's rejecting the same spot. Be careful.
I'm hearing reports now that UK and India strike a trade deal amid US-led tariff tensions, according to CNBC International right now. Just came out 2 seconds ago. So, the whole world might be just saying, screw you, United States, and just go do their own trade deals with themselves. What do you think about Bitcoin in some of these states that are now rejecting, like Florida and Arizona, rejecting the states buying Bitcoin as a reserve?
It's for pension fund. I mean, I think it's a mistake probably, but I also think that it was too much of a rush to do these things without the right sort of framework. Again, you had a couple of bad, sort of pushes by the wrong part of the nonprofit world of crypto. Get involved, and of course they rushed things without making sure they had the votes, so now they blew it, quite frankly. And that's what you don't want to do in government, right? You got to make sure you have your votes lined up before you go to the floor, right, Steve? Isn't that what they taught you?
Yep, that's right.
And you always want to make sure you have a buffer, and they did neither. Because Arizona lost by just a little bit. Arizona passed it, and then the governor vetoed it. Correct. So I mean, you got to keep in mind, it's not even it doesn't even matter if it's the will of the people. In Arizona, it was the will of the people. It was the will of the House, and it got vetoed by the governor. We'll see if they do it.
But Katie Hobbs is a Democrat, so she's still towing the Democrat line, right?
Very much, very much. And she used all the Democratic, those Elizabeth Warren talking points as her reasoning there. So, again, I'm okay. I don't need government involved in Bitcoin, as I've, said over the years. I would like less of that.
Yeah, but choppy market here. No, I'm not seeing much here, but silver trying to push again here a little bit. Gold at 3,400 an ounce, man. Whew.
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps on rising. To me, that says a lot.
Hey, for those of you out there, thanks, man. I got over 700 views right now. Let's get that up there over 1,000. If you can, just hit that retweet button and pump us out there. If you're seeing us through LinkedIn, hit there. Push us out there. Get us out there. If you like what you're seeing and hearing from us, make sure you hit that like button. There you go. I like that. Thanks, Howard. I like that. Share and follow it.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. If you could. Market right now is trying to break. I mean, I'll also point out yesterday I was talking about trying to get across 486. Today we're trying to get across 481 on the Qs. It's trying right now. So we'll see if we can get that. I don't really have, I have 482.25 here. As you guys know, every day I sort of put my upside that I think our key resistance is going to be at to break. For me today, it's 482.25 on that. I do think Bitcoin looks weak here today. I do think it's going to drop back to that $92,000 support that we talked about. So watch for that. It's somewhere right around this 91,800 in my opinion. I've heard calls at 92.2. I more think it tends to wick down to the wick of the lower So I'm thinking 91.8 in that range there. So I just wanted to keep in mind. Thank you, Lucky Charts. We always appreciate you, buddy. You are always helping us out. We do appreciate that. That's what I'm looking at. Bitcoin, it's anything above that 92 becomes good. Like I said, I'm still targeting 88. You can see it on my chart, 88,775 for my next buy here. So that's what I'll be looking for, an irrational drop down to that level for it there. Trying to take a look here to see what's moving. We see Chinese names moving to the upside today. Steve, Baba up about 1.39, Baidu up 1.74. One that is moving up nicely, Steve, is Constellation Energy off of their earnings myth here today. Did you see, too, their CEO made it clear that he feels, I'm trying to look for the exact quote here, but basically said that, here it is, U.S. electricity demand driven by new data centers is being overstated. So that was an interesting one to hear there. So
yeah, when I hear people talk about that, about AI and Bitcoin is using up all the energy, not really. You can say that, and it sounds good on a sound bite, but the issue, is it's not really. It is some places, you can say in some places, but it's not happening everywhere. So yeah, I like this moving in the queues. Look at that. If you're buying the dip, I think buy the dip here has been really good.
That 481, like I said, it's got to get that 482.25, but we break that, we could have a nice move to the upside here today. It is, again, anything in this first half hour, though, it's all algos. This is, yesterday we saw that same jump up just before 10 o'clock, and then the rest of the day it got sold off. Does seem like, again, I keep saying the same thing. Most of the moves are done in the pre-market.
If you think about it from the perspective of Warren Buffett saying, "I'm going to cash" back in January, which he did,
still,
and out of the top 10 billionaires in the United States, he's the only one who made money, right? Okay. One of the bigger ones, the investors, Paul Tudor Jones, telling you the stock market's going to crash. You know what? They might not be just talking their book. He might be telling you something.
Yeah, I mean, my view has been that we haven't necessarily hit the bottom. I think there's issues still.
Well, we're going to hear about this from Michael Litt. That this is starting to be a lot like the year 2000, where there's this nice big sell off, but then we had a nice big run back up, and then we crashed, right? So in 08, we did the same thing, right? There was this, and we all know that bounces happen.
Some of the best bear market rallies, right? The fact is, though, they don't hold for the entire time, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
India's trade rep minister now says 99% of Indian exports will benefit from zero duty under India-UK trade deal. Yeah, that's a pretty big, I like that deal. See, more zero tariffs. I agree with that. Right now, there are times when tariffs need to. There you go. I'm sorry. There are times when tariffs need to be out there, but not like this. Not tariff.
Ooh, Ford CEO Jim Farley expect tariffs to be in place for the next 3 years. Whoa! And there's the guy who talks to our president, right?
That's right. He does. He's on the boards on the advisory board. Yeah.
Wow.
That's really bad. That if that's the case, and I think that's probably why Paul Tudor Jones was talking this morning about he thinks that there's a good chance that he keeps him on the whole term.
Man.
Well, and why he's saying 3 years is because the election, right? That whoever's coming up the election probably wants to pull him off. So, but ouch. Let's hope that's in business we don't believe in hope and luck, right? In business, it's business. I really don't want to see that. That's not.
I did want to point out that Hims, which was getting crushed earlier after their earnings report, now up 9%. So first move there is wrong. It was down 6% after guiding their revenue below in their consensus. It did beat the estimates, and now we see a strong move to the upside by Hims. They did talk about, I have their earnings report stuff here, and they did talk about moving into women's skincare, and then I missed the second part here. Hold it. And
I'm kind of glad they're moving away from just the GLPs, right?
Dermatology services.
Hey, I like that. That's much better than just trying to take over the GLPs all the time, right? I like the hims and hers ideas, making it easier for people to get these products. But don't take people's ideas. Make your own. Get your own ideas, right? But I like this. This is good. And reselling.
Yeah, nice move to the
we
upside
did
there.
raise our markets, right? We take good companies and put them in our system. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have any problem with that. Compounders is something that the United States has lost, right? We need compounders. We need people that make the medicine here in the U.S. That's what they do. They don't create things. They're basically pharmacists. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just 2450 on the VIX has me still a little nervous here, Steve. Shows that there's a little bit more concern going into tomorrow's FOMC than maybe we thought.
And I think the option market is really telling people that, hey, yeah.
Hey, we're back down below 481 on the Qs. Like I said, those pumps, these algos are trying to catch everybody. So you got to be careful in this first half hour, one way or the other.
It could be stop sniping. If you don't know what that means, where people put their stops in for the markets, that they go and search those out and go hit them. Yeah, it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you do not like to use them. I know a lot of people who don't from there. I figure I'm such a small fish. They ain't searching for my $100 place. So
you would be surprised.
Oh, I know they are. And as you know, I use trailing, so it doesn't show up. Another one, Steve, I wonder how's DoorDash doing after their earnings? They were down pretty significantly after their earnings.
Yeah, I haven't used DoorDash. I just don't use DoorDash.
When I lived in DC, I did. Here in Ohio, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, in the major city, because it was so easy in DC, you had so many great options within like 2 or 3 miles that
there was nothing like grabbing your phone in Manhattan and getting your food within like 5 minutes, right?
Yeah,
and that was exciting to me.
Yeah, it's different here. I don't need it to order from the restaurants here in DC. There's no parking. All the advantages that DoorDash has in a major city, they don't have where I live. There's no parking. I didn't want to go pick up my food.
Well, I think who's doing it better is Uber Eats, because they already have the drivers. They don't have to go up and get drivers and everything else, right? So I think Uber Eats does a very good job, and they really you already have Uber on your phone, so it's easy to just make Uber Eats. And I use Uber Eats, and I pay the $30 a month or whatever because I don't have any fees. So it's great when I'm traveling or whatever. It's just easier for me too as well. No fees. Yeah. After that, look, we're seeing a tick now popping here, 141 here. So we could see some more run a little bit.
With that, I will tell you that if you stay at Hilton hotels, you get no charges from Grubhub.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I love that partnership. I do
Hilton's
Diamond member, and one of the advantages you get at Hilton is they've got a partnership with Grubhub and Lyft. Believe it or not. Steve, one of your companies had a tough little earnings too. Clorox dropped about 3% here this morning, or had. Everything moves around, so let me see what they're at now.
This is why when commodity prices go up, then it's what hurts everything. So yeah. It also means that people aren't cleaning their houses as clean as they had been during COVID, right? I said one of the things that I said during COVID is, man, Clorox is going to do very well. Lysol, those products are going to do very well as everybody's going to clean their house. And I was like, man, people ask me all the time. I said, man, people are going to have the cleanliest house that you've ever been in. You'll be able to eat off the floors. But people are now going back to the normal ways of doing things, maybe not spending as much. And of course, commodity prices have gone up. So, yeah.
Yeah. I will say that's a hell of a crazy stock. Clorox.
You think about the algos and you think about that, then yeah, this is easier to trade. I like Clorox for the trading ability of it. You can see when to buy, you can see when to sell. Probably right now is probably a good time to buy. Not saying one time to buy and sell, but if you can see the chart.
I'd like to see it come down to this 125 here to do it.
Right.
But yeah, that's a hellishly looking bad linear regression on a daily chart. Yeah, it filled right to the gap though. That's where it stopped. I mean, it already did its wick right back there. This is, like you said, from a technical standpoint, this is a buy sort of.
VXX now at 63.96, so it is pushing up a little bit. People are getting scared again, I think.
Yeah, tick back below now, below 480 on Qs. Where SPY's down 91 percentage point, 91 basis points. Dow Jones down 85 basis points. Bitcoin actually took a little move to the upside here back at 93,750. As you said, gold trying to battle for 3,400 here. You got to love to see that from that side. WTI stopped its move to the upside, but 58. I haven't looked at DXY this morning. 99.34, down another half a percentage point. Kind of that scares me a little bit that the euro versus the dollar is gaining on a day that Mertz doesn't get confirmed on the first vote. That seems a little strange to me. I do see the sterling gained almost 75 basis points here. A nice move to the upside too. We do see utilities move to the green here on the Spider Select fund. So we do have one of the funds moving to the north. Next one looks close. Nothing else really that close to going positive. Oh yeah, we are XLE energy sector led by CEG.
Someone just sold $7.8 million worth of Apple calls.
Oof. Calls become much more difficult, right? And options, because you don't know if that's part of a hedge. You don't know if it's part of a extended.
Yeah, I agree, but I also say that's a lot. And John Trades is usually pretty good about that. So let's do the homework on that. 7.8 million times 100 times. I don't know what the
strike price. So you need a strike.
Yeah, I'm looking at the price now. I'm trying to pull it up now.
Because again, if they sold in the money calls.
Yeah. Let's see. So that strikes at 185. Whew. That's 100 and I don't even want to think about how much money that is. $144.3 million.
Yeah.
Oof. That value of that value is that contract now is 7.88 million, and it was a sweep. It was so big they had to break it up. So that's a sweep coming in, folks. So selling calls means that you think the market's going to go down. So normally when sell calls, we don't know exactly
what. Renting out your shares.
That's right. So somebody actually has those shares, so they're protecting it, right? It's so a hedge, but they'll make money if the price of Apple goes down. So someone thinks that Apple price is going to go down
or stays the same. Just doesn't go up to the strike
and
price.
You can see where the Qs just dropped pretty heavy on that. So someone knows something here.
The Q's threatening to go below 479 here.
And we're going to hear Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent now will testify at Treasury's oversight at 10 a.m. So
that'll be interesting.
And yeah, whoever did that just knew something was coming in. Look at the markets just falling now. Look at that sell-off. So if you're listening to us, you nailed that right there. I gave it to you early. VIX just jumped here.
Yeah,
you had a chance to get in. I know who to watch out there, and when I see these things come across, keep my eye on them. That's what separates a good trader from a bad trader, right? Is how fast you can move, not just knowing what to do, but how fast can your fingers move or your algo or whatever. There it is. But yeah.
Wow. Today the Fed starts collecting on 5 million plus defaulted student loan borrowers with collections. There's a 20.5% delinquency rate, 90 days, highest ever recorded. Tax refund because they've been offset. Social Security benefits will be cut up by up to 15%, and wage garnishment would have.
All right, so think about that. They're going to cut Social Security if you didn't pay your student loans, right? That means your student loans have been with you for 50 years. So I'm okay with that one. I mean, you pay your student loans, right? You borrowed the money.
Well, they haven't been with them. Those aren't people doing it. In other words, it's saying your benefits, if you did not pay it, will be cut. In other words, the government's not going to make you pay it. they're going to take it out of the money that they owe.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But if you still owed your education,
yeah, people have to pay it. I'm with you. And this seems to be. I don't know if you know. This is a whole thing that's going on. There's a whole thing in the youth here right now that are saying because the government has removed or gotten rid of the Department of Education, that this is not, that these debts are no longer valid. That the argument is being that the federal department ceases to exist, its services cease to exist, and so too must its obligations. And that's bad advice. That is very bad advice to be given.
The Department of Education does not backstop the money, right? The Department of it's banks backstop that money.
Yeah, and Lucky Charts, yeah, they are pulling the Bart Simpson. I'm with you there. The headline just coming, it will come back down. For those that don't know, that is my favorite chart. You usually look at it on an hour.
Paul Furtick says, I think the bet is that they will have problems moving manufacturing lines to India. That's correct. I mean, as we know, they're mostly in Vietnam now, and they need a little bit of churn here and spin up time to be able to move to India. But the cool thing about India is that they already have those things in place. They have those big buildings already ready to go in Chandigarh and places like that. So they are prepared, but you're right. It's going to take a long time for them to get over there. All right, we're at 900 people watching. How about let's get to 1,000? If you're out there, click that button, retweet it, get us out there. Let's break 1,000 today. On a slow day of breaking 1,000, that's almost better than 99% of all fintech out there and watching shows. Let's get that number up, folks.
And then to talk about what Lucky Charts is saying with the Bart Simpson, you can see it here on the daily chart on Bitcoin. You make that big move up, and then it looks like his haircut. And then what usually happens is a slide down. Look for the ears, though.
Hey, man.
And I have called
that was
the
my worst Bart Simpson impression. I will not do that again.
But you're not going to do your imitation? Come on, man. Let's see what's moving here today.
Diamondback Energy now says that marginal barrel in the United States is not being produced right now. Okay, I talked about that months ago, that we have to have oil prices at certain companies need certain amounts, right? But right here at $59 a barrel is hurting a lot of oil companies. So I don't think that energy is the place to be. They're the margins of which they buy it and sell it. In this case, Diamondback producing it. It's not good. And so that's right. So,
yeah, absolutely.
If the president wants to do anything, you want to build something besides roads and bridges, you want to build something, fix the refineries.
Yeah.
Build a killer good refinery near the oil markets, whether it's Louisiana or Texas. That will be paid off in a year. I mean, because right now we have the most inefficient old refineries, and we don't have time today to do it, but I would urge people out there to understand and learn what the crack spread is. The quote crack spread is. That's not between your cheeks. That's actually crack spread of oil and heating oil and things of that nature. So I would suggest maybe we do a maybe next few weeks we'll do something on a crack spread, but. We pop here back in the tick now a little bit as that sell-off was driven by headlines. Your charts didn't tell them that, right? Your Bart Simpson chart didn't tell you that. It was driven specifically by...
Oh, I would totally disagree. It hit exactly the resistance I said it would on the keys, and then it went down. Steve, that's crazy. You're crazy. You got to stop with that, bro.
Bro,
come on.
Not
hitting
until
I'm calling the spots out every morning for you, and that's exactly where they're going.
But not until the headline came out. The headline had
my charts
before it happened. I'm disagreeing.
No, you're wrong.
I love it. But no, I think you're wrong, Howard. It wasn't until the headline came across.
Exactly at the resistance where they knew the headline would do its
okay,
damage.
All right. I'll go along with that.
481,
but that's
there it is.
But I don't believe in
it's the same things every day. I'm calling out these levels, and they're just continually hitting, Steve. And I'm not very good at it.
Do you think it's the algos doing it? Is it algos doing it, or is it people doing it?
I think it's a combination of both. I think it's algos don't work alone when it comes to financial trading. You know, the joke about Blue Horizon, what it was, the line from Wall Street likes whatever. when you're looking at what your
Blue Horse
newspaper
loves Endicott Steel. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're looking at CNBC and stuff, understand that that information is being fed by someone who has a position in the market. And that's what tends to happen. So that's, that's definitely the case. There is the combination of releasing news. I pointed out on the show a few times where the news release happened exactly at the same time that we either hit resistance or support. That's how you catch them. Berkshire down now another 0.5 percentage point here, 509. Disney 91.88. Steve, you going to start to buy it at 90?
Well, I still think that
wasn't it Endicott, END?
No, it's Endicott.
Endicott
is a fake company. Endicott's another company. It's a good question about Disney. I mean, the numbers are still there. The streaming, if the Trump is really going after international media, it could be a problem there too. But I'm not really sure yet. We got about a minute here, and Howard and I have a meeting to go to.
Palantir down 14%, Steve.
I told people don't. We said both of us said don't. This is not the time to go picking up falling knives.
High PE stocks. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Mag 7, all 7 of them in the negative here. Netflix, the one that looks like it wants to go positive. Most of the others do not look like they want to go positive here. Apple back not only below 200 at 197 here. A lot of them have dropped below some of those areas, or back towards those spots that we were talking about as value again. So.
If you want to look at WBD, which is Warner Brothers Discovery Channel, WBD, that one's been taking it off the chin a little bit. If you look at it from 52-week range, 664 to 1270, so it's right. It's the low side of where the middle is, but it's pretty close, right? So. If you look at it from market cap, $20 billion. If Warren were to go into that level, $20 billion, and he has $380 billion in cash, I mean, he could buy his own studio.
That'd be a good connection to SiriusXM, I bet, too.
Yes.
Which we know he owns 35% of.
He does own SiriusXM, major stockholder in SiriusXM. And I understand that. So, if you think about it from your theory of Ford Motor Company, right? You not only buy
it would be very similar. I'm with you there.
You buy Ford Motor Company, and then you buy SiriusXM. So now Berkshire Hathaway, the truck, they sell you the truck and they sell you the radio for free now. That's brilliant. Canada's PMI now coming in at 47.9 versus 51.3. Previous read was 51.2. So their PMI really getting smacked, and that could add to us, especially when you're looking at it from the perspective of a trade deal. Carney is now, as we all know, in the United States talking to Trump. Trump is still saying, negative things about Canada being the 51st state. I'll post it right there for you. All right, we have a meeting we need to run to, but Howard, good meeting here, and we almost hit 1,000 there. We'll hit
awesome.
Over there in a few seconds.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Quasar Markets Live. Big Beat, always a pleasure, my friend. We will see you in the morning.
Just remember, it's not about your charts.